Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Flipping the Bird. My name is Ryder Martin. We're here with episode 3. I'm joined today by Julia, Eddie, Don, and Ryan. How are you all doing today?
Doing pretty good.
Good.
All right, so we got a lot of UTSA sports to talk about. Snowpocalypse has thankfully ended, and all UTSA sports were back in action last week, with the exception of the women's basketball team, unfortunately, due to COVID concerns. But I want to start this week off talking about men's basketball. They finished up their conference play season, splitting a series against UAB over the weekend, going 1-1 there. And I wanted to get your immediate reaction, Eddie, about their 57-64 loss on Friday, immediately followed by that big blowout win, 96-79 on Saturday.
I mean, that was crazy. I did not see that coming. I think 50 is one of our lowest scoring games, other than against UTEP. We scored 51, but 57 is also along with there. And then us almost scoring 100 points was kind of insane. I don't know what happened there, but I think our low scoring in the first game, I think Javon was the only one in double figures. And then he just exploded with 32, and Keaton pulled up with 22 as well. And then, I don't know what to explain what else. That was kind of crazy. We didn't see 96 coming. I mean, I thought maybe a close game, but that's pretty surprising to me.
All right, Julia.
I was actually at the first game, and like within the first minute, UAB had scored 10 points just from our turnovers. We threw the ball away a ridiculous amount in that game, and it was actually very hard to watch. The whole time I was on the sideline taking pictures, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, are you not looking where you're throwing the ball? Like, come on. But I mean, I think that we were kind of shocked at their level of play. They were the team that knocked us out of the tournament last year. So I feel like we kind of were walking on eggshells a little bit at the beginning. And then I think just turning around and putting up 96 points was exactly what they had planned to do the whole weekend. But we just kind of had to get our groove on for the first game. But that first game was a little bit ridiculous, I will say.
All right, Dalton.
Yeah, I mean, like Julia said, the first game is definitely rough. I like that UTSA had the ability to bounce back. I really appreciate that as a team, and I think that being able to go from a loss like that in a really low scoring game and then immediately pick up like probably one of the highest scoring games in our franchise, it's pretty awesome. But I don't know how much that really helps us playoff time because the format is not like the NBA. It's not a best of 5; it's best of 1. So I don't know how. I think it's awesome to almost have left off with that. But nonetheless, I still think it's really good for our team to get a big blowout win like that. So I'm excited.
And of course, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Julia, were you at both games or just the one?
I was just at the first one.
Okay.
I didn't get to see the second one, which is kind of sad, but yeah.
Was it their last game too?
It was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think they took a backseat or do you think no? I'm trying to say, like, do you think they rested? Like, or did you think they took it seriously the last game?
No.
Go for it, Ryan.
Oh, I was just gonna say I don't think that like UAB was like chilling because I think it was pretty close during some points of the game. Like it was definitely like a lot closer for most of the game than I would say like the box scores shows, because I think when I was looking at like the score updates and stuff, they were like UAB was like always not too far behind, and they were definitely still playing their starters as far as I know. Like they still had all their starters in like most of the second half. So I think that they were still trying, but I think like Javon and Keaton were just like shooting crazy from the 3-point line, and they were like making a lot of their, or I think Javon was, at least he was making a lot of his threes. So I think that also, normally when one or two of them gets hot, that's like game over for the other team, because it's very hard to like overcome that if you're another team when they get hot like that.
Yeah, because I know North Texas and LA Tech, they don't have any chance of, like, this game didn't decide, missing those standing positions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I was just wondering.
Yeah. Javon went 6 of 10 from 3-point distance, and Keaton Wallace also went 3 of 4. So they had a really nice. And then Jordan Ivy Curry also chipped in 3 of 5. So it was a pretty good night for the perimeter for him.
Yeah.
Now, with this win in our last game, that locked us in as the 4th seed out in the West. So I believe that the Conference USA tournament is seeded by win percentage in conference. So I don't know exactly where we're going to end up, whether we're going to be the 7 or the 6 out there. But where do you guys see this team, given what we're up against towards the higher end of the Conference USA? How do you see this team being able to compete in the conference tournament out there? Dalton, we'll start with you.
I mean, I think who we get seeded against is a really big problem. Part of it too. I think that if we end up playing somebody who plays a lot of big men, I think that's going to be a struggle for us because from inside the paint, we have like some of the lower numbers. But if we play somebody who's all perimeter, all guard, then I think we'll have a pretty good shot. So I think that there's a lot of teams I would like to play against, and I think there's a lot of teams that I don't want to play against. So I'm curious to see where we seed, and then I can definitely look a little bit more into that. But going into playoffs is the 4th and it's A and B, right? It's like it's Conference B or Conference USA A and Conference USA B, and finishing 4th in one of those is pretty good compared to like last year where I'm pretty sure we like barely snuck in, right? We snuck in as like the last seed, so definite improvements. But this is probably our last year to like make it big, so I'm excited to see what we do in playoffs.
Juliet?
I think, and I've been saying this for 2 years, it's all going to come down to our defense. In the UAB game that we lost last weekend, that was a major thing, because I feel like we just kind of give up, especially if we're not playing very well. So, and I don't know. I think if Javon and Keaton have a hot night, then I think we could make it to the next round. But if we have to rely on some of our other shooters and maybe getting into the paint a little bit, we're going to struggle. So it's really going to come down to how our defense performs and how we're able to just keep the other teams scoring at bay. At least that's what I think.
Ryan?
Yeah, like what Dalton was saying, I think it's just going to come down to what type of matchup we get because, it's not like we're playing a series. It's only one game. So you really have to show up if you're going to intend to get further into the bracket. So, it's going to just vary. Do they even have like the seedings in place of who plays who yet? Or
I don't believe that we do yet.
Okay. So yeah, I would say that's like the biggest factor on how we're going to compete. But the matchup that we do get, they are just going to have to come out hot, and they can't, start slow and start sluggish because 4 turnovers in the first 5 minutes of the game or whatever, and scoreless, and the other team has like double digit charity. That's not good. That's especially tournament time. That's not good for them at all. So they just need to make sure that whatever matchup they do get, they're able to start fast and not get too far in the hole to where it hurts them for the whole rest of the game. So that's going to be key.
All right, Eddie, we'll finish with you.
All righty. Yeah, I agree with everybody's statement saying that the standings matter in the matchups. But I think if Javon and Keaton could, make everybody buy in and say, hey, this is our last hoorah. I think against anybody, I think when this team is hot, I think they could go against anybody. And then I think beating UAB that high, almost 100 points, I think it's a huge confidence booster. I would have liked them to go into the playoff game or the tournament game with this last game and not this tune-up game that they're going to get, because I feel like it might, throw them off a bit. But I think they're going to buy into, this being the last game with Javon and Keaton, and I think everybody's going to buy in and they're going to go off probably.
Julia?
So I feel like we're always kind of in this situation, or we have been as long as I've been at UTSA, where it's kind of like, well, it's a toss-up as long as Javon and Keaton play well. But do y'all think that we've kind of wasted their potential on how far we could have gone in the tournament because we haven't succeeded yet? Or do y'all think that, for this is kind of run of the mill for us and where we should be?
I mean, it's kind of easy to say, you can look at the top, 5 scores in Conference USA history, and Javon and Keaton are in that top 5. Has Javon passed, is Javon number 1 now, or is he still stuck at number 2? Does anybody have that stat in front of him?
I don't have that. I
And,
can look.
But
number 1 in what?
Conference USA all-time scoring. Regardless, the fact is we still have 2 of those guys up there on that leaderboard, and we have not succeeded in the conference tournament whatsoever. We haven't even sniffed the finals. So I think it's kind of easy to say that, yeah, we have kind of wasted, that, because anytime you can get not 1 but 2, all-time conference scores on your roster at the same time, you got to make a little more noise than we kind of have. So,
I mean, it's hard. Like, when you have 2 like all-star players like that, it's hard to get a supporting cast that can actually follow their duties around them. So it's tough to say like, yeah, we did waste them, but it's also hard to say like, did we provide enough supporting cast for them? So it's really neck and neck on that.
He's still number 2, by the way.
Okay.
He's down like 100 points. So actually 70 something. I think he.
Okay, well that leads perfectly into our next talking point of the fact that this was senior weekend for our UTSA seniors. We had Javon Keaton and Phoenix Ford play what was supposed to be their last game at the Convocation Center for us. However, due to the fact that we were only going to be playing 2 games in, I believe it was 24 days, UTSA saw wisdom in scheduling a tune-up game against Southern Adventists. If you ask me where that was, I would not be able to tell you. But we are going to be having a tune-up game against them on Thursday. So I wanted to get your reactions to that and what we should do with our starters in that game. Don, we'll start with you.
Don't play them. I mean, like, if we're going to win, we're going to win through bench, right? Because I feel like every year we say, like, you look at the team, you look at the starters, you're like, Keaton, Javon, like, obviously they're like, if they don't get points, it's like, what's even the point of playing the game, right? And I mean, then on top of that, like, we have normally some pretty good, like Jacob Germany he performed decently last year. I think he had like double-digit points or something like that, and pretty solid rebound numbers. But yeah, I mean, the bench is going to be where we win. If we can't win, like if we can't win with our starters, then we just lose the game. That doesn't really seem like a good winning formula. So I would say don't play any of your starters. Maybe play them for the first like 2 minutes at the start of either quarter, and then just like let the bench play. Because I mean, other than them, like that's your only like fallback option to like the same plan that happens over and over again, and we always fall into that same pit trap where we just don't get hot at the right time.
Ryan, we'll go to you.
Yeah, I would treat it as like a preseason game, honestly. Just let them play like a few minutes and that's it. And just let the bench get some like minutes in before conference time, because it's just good to get those guys some minutes whenever you're going into such crucial moments as the tournament, because you just want to get the most reps that you can for everybody. So I would say just play the starters very gingerly and just move on from that game without trying to hurt anybody.
Eddie?
I agree with both. Unless Javon's not going to drop 70 and 5, then he shouldn't play if he wants to be number 1. Other than that, I don't think both of them should play. I think they should put the bench and the other players in to put them in an uncomfortable position, like just to let them play the whole game and let them see, who are we without Javon and Keaton. And maybe this game will help them understand to, I guess, elevate their game for the tournament game. And yeah, I think I agree with Dalton. They should just keep them out and then let the bench and other players get a little tune-up game for them.
We'll go to Julia.
Considering Southwestern Adventist is 2-6 this season, I don't really understand why we're playing this game, to be honest, when we could just have an inter-squad scrimmage, which would probably be the same talent that we're going to see them play against this team. I don't know. It's kind of like, what's the risk of, playing some little podunk team that no one's ever heard of and risking like potential injuries for your starting lineup when you could just run a scrimmage with, Division I talent, obviously, that's already on our team. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and 2-6 team. I mean, and then coming off a 19-6 team, like the difference it will be noticed, and I feel like it's gonna throw our team off if we do this. If they play against this 2-6 team.
But what if we lose though? I'm just thinking about that. Like, imagine we lose this game. Like, we just get like blown out of proportion. Like, what do we do after that? I mean, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but I'm just saying, like,
you're just speaking in pure hypotheticals here. What if?
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea, like, I like the idea. I would really love to see us like play Keaton and Javon for like 2 minutes, like in total. Play them at the beginning of each halftime and just get us like rolling. And then I would love to see that we drop like 140, like some NBA numbers on these guys. But like, I mean, I don't know. I guess this game will be kind of telling in like some regard of like, if we just like blow them out of the water, then it should prove that we're like a cut above the rest. But it's a close game. Then I mean, what do you think about that? Like, we put bench in only and it turns into a close game. Is that just because it's bench, or should our bench be above their starters? Definitely an interesting thought.
I mean, not to sound like a broken record, I agree with most of all your guys' points. I think that it's a game that we don't really need, but I do see the merit in having a tune-up game because, to be fair, we haven't played very much in the last month. The winter weather conditions really kind of threw our team out of whack for a couple of days. So I think that getting at least another game action, but I do think it is very important, like Dolan's saying, don't play them very long. Get them in there, get their tires warm, but don't risk having a tire go down. Just stay safe, stay calm, play the bench, get them tuned up, and then go to the conference tournament and see what you can do. But I think that it's a game that is good to play, but not a game that we need to actively just try and, blow them out. Like, honestly, a close game with the bench is fine, just as long as the bench is getting reps.
I'm all right with that.
If that's a close game, I'm transferring and I'm never going to another men's basketball game ever again.
I think playing starters against bench players and like, I mean, they're still like, they're a D1 school. You got to give them some, yeah, let them have some props there. So, I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I'd be okay with seeing a close game. That'd be all right with me.
I just want to know where this school's at. That's all I want to know real quick.
It is located in Tennessee.
And they're coming. Wow, that is a very interesting opponent to pick as a last-second option.
Yeah.
No, are they really?
No,
Okay.
they're in Texas.
It's in Tennessee. Unless there's another school with the same exact name.
I'm on their website. It says overall percentage is 0 and 19. They're not on it for 19, right? No, there's no way they're on a 19 loss streak.
I'm willing to bet that there are multiple Southern Adventist universities out there.
It's Southwestern. That's where you're going.
Oh,
yeah. Okay, that would do it.
Yeah,
Southwestern.
I was like, this is not a Division I school, guys. Like, there's no way.
Okay, it's in Keene, Texas, apparently.
Keene.
Wherever that is.
This makes a lot more sense now. Thank you, Ryan.
They're the Knights,
I appreciate it.
Yes.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's 0.
Oh, it's the Dallas area?
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
No. All right, I'm taking back everything. I don't want to see a close game. If they're 0 for 19, blow them out. Like, there's no, like, don't want to be 1 and 19, bro. Come on.
They're coming over here. Or we're going over there.
They're coming over here. We're not going to bust the team out to Keene to.
Why did we schedule this game if we could have just rescheduled the Charlotte series?
True.
That's a very good question, and I do not have an answer for that.
True.
Somebody must have a friend over at Southwestern.
Hot take.
Somebody's getting
Just
paid.
saying. Somebody has a friend over there, probably. That's my guess.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of like, if they're actually 0-19, I think this is like one of those like motivation games to like they're going to go out to this game, like assuming that they blow them out, like 40 points, they're going to be like, we're built for this tournament, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, I mean, Sure, I guess. I think that's kind of what they're hoping to get from this game.
It's just like when the women played Sul Ross.
That worked out really well for the rest of their season.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on from basketball now, we got to talk about my personal favorite sport now. UTSA baseball is finally back in action. They finally got to throw a pitch. They went out to Sam Houston, and they actually took the series win 2-1. They dropped their opening game 4-2. I was watching that game, very poor at bats. Pitching wasn't fantastic. It was just a bit of an off game for us. And then our bats really woke up on Saturday and Sunday. We crushed them 10-4, and then finished off with an exclamation point of 18-5. So Ryan, I want to go to you. What did that first series tell you about this team so far at the start of the year?
So definitely the first game was super surprising to me. I honestly couldn't believe the score when I saw. I think it was like 4-0 for like most of the game. If or something, we were down like
it was
the whole
about
game.
4-1, and then we had a homer in the ninth to like make it a little more respectable.
Yeah, so I was honestly shocked. I was like, what is going on? Like, did the loss of some players from last year really like affect us this much that we're not going to be good or something? And then Saturday we just exploded offensively for 10 runs, and I was like, okay, we're doing better. And then Sunday, the rubber match, we exploded for 18. So I was like, okay, so then we're definitely fine then. The first game was definitely just a game where they were just probably trying to find their lineup or find their pitchers, kind of get comfortable with the season because, they didn't get to play their whole season with the new head coach last year. So, they're still technically getting adjusted to his program. So definitely was shocked with the results of the first game, but I'm honestly very impressed with how they responded to that first loss in the next two games. So I think that's a clear sign that they're going to be, at the same level that they've been in the past few years. They've always been able to compete and, compete well against really good teams. So I think we're in for a fun season with UTSA baseball this year.
Julia, we'll go to you.
I completely agree. I didn't really have high expectations for the first game. I feel like I never do, but especially because they didn't get to play their full season, and we did have some roster changes that were pretty significant, I would say. I mean, I was surprised that we lost that in that manner, but I mean, coming back, scoring 10 and then scoring 18 back to back, that's kind of what I expected. And I will say I have high hopes for this team this year, but I mean, we haven't really got to see everything that Hallmark can do yet. So I'm very excited to see how he runs the program. Absolutely.
Yeah. Leading that offensive attack was Ian Bailey, went 5 for 14 with 5 RBIs, 2 homers, and 5 runs scored, usually batting out of the 3 spot or the cleanup spot, depending on the day. So really good start for him this season. And I think one of the major things that I noticed from the opening weekend series was there was a lot of questions coming into the season about like who's going to be our starting pitching staff behind Shane Dowdy. Well, Shane didn't even start this week. He came on in relief on Saturday and pitched 5 scoreless, I believe. So, and none of the guys that I thought were going to actually start for us ended up starting for us this week. So it seems like we still have a lot of question marks on that starting pitching staff, but they performed relatively well, I would say. Luke Malone had a bit of a rough start in game 1. He had a couple innings where he looked really good, and then he kind of got away from him in the 4th inning, and he got pulled out. But I also want to highlight our bullpen. Our bullpen did pretty solid work over the 3-game series. So I have high expectations for this team this year. I really do. I covered them last year extensively, and I liked what I saw, but we didn't really get to see like how they would respond because they had their first like 5-game losing streak right before COVID cut the season off. So we weren't really sure how they were going to bounce back from that. So I'm curious to see what the full season will look like for this team because we started really hot last year, and then it seems kind of like we started to battle a little bit more inconsistency. But I really like this team's offense. I like this team's offense a lot. I think Dylan Rock up towards the top of the lineup, really, really good. Julia?
I just have a question for what y'all think. So after the Arlington series, we've got TCU, LSU, and Baylor back to back. So how do y'all think that the first series and how this weekend is going to be important for us to take on those big programs.
It's going to be about setting the tone. We need to get off to a good start to build that confidence. We got to get through UT Arlington pretty clean. If I remember last year, we got swept by them, I believe, on the road right before COVID cut off. So I think it'll be a very important series for us to kind of bounce back and kind of maybe get that monkey off of our back early. Because I do think that TCU, LSU, and Baylor are just going to be such tough tests for our team. And we have performed well. We beat Notre Dame last year in the Irish Alamo Classic. So we can beat Power 5, top programs. It's just going to be that's a brutal 4-game stretch.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on. Women's volleyball is in a bit of a rough patch right now. They got swept by Rice last week, and the record is now standing at 3-9. Dolan, I want to talk to you about this. What is going on with this team right now, and what needs to be changed to maybe get this team back on track?
It's for every game, what happens is the first series sets off as they normally go down 1-2. It's 0-2, so they're trying to force a game 5 a lot of times, and most of the time they win the third set, but they're unable to force it in the fifth. They're unable to force a fifth They're unable to force a fifth in the fourth. There you go. So it's just they're just not off to hard. They cannot ever start a series on the right foot, and then it always impacts them later on into it. And they also have a very poor mental, I would say. Because once they lose the first series, it normally they'll go 3-2, 3-1, a closer game, and then immediately followed by it over 3. They just get absolutely blown out in the second series. And I think that's because they're again a newer team. They didn't get to practice at all last year. So I don't think that they've kind of gotten the same mentality that a lot of these other teams have, where it's like, we've been together, we know how to win together. They haven't had that. So I think a newer roster with a lot of errors, I think that's going to happen early on to the season. But I do see a lot of promise from them. I think Bianca, I'm sorry, the last name is a bit difficult for me to pronounce, but Bianca has been very solid. She's a sophomore year, so this is her first season playing for us, and she's been incredible. So I'm really excited to see where we go. But yeah, they just cannot keep it together after the first series.
Yeah, I think it's important to when you look at the stats, at least in relation to Conference USA, they very are much a middle of the road team. The only real stat that we're really bad on is usually opponent hitting percentage. I believe we were the 4th worst in the conference to that. But most other stats are around the 7 to 8 range. So I mean, looking at the record, we're 3-9. But I think that eventually you'll kind of see that maybe start to even out a little more, and we're going to see the team get back to more of an average net neutral record. This team, kind of like you're saying, Dolan, they've got a problem with falling behind early and then having to dig their way back out of it late in games to force those game 5s. We aren't winning games decisively. We're winning games close if we do even win them. And when it comes to that second match day, usually, like you're saying, we are getting blown out 0-3, 0-3, 0-3. So I think that this team needs to work on being able to get off to that fast start, because I think the team has the potential to be better than they are right now. This isn't a team that's struggling right now, and they're going to stay struggling the entire season. This team can fix itself. It's just going to take some changes, especially at the beginning of games, and that second match against an opponent is where they really need to improve out there.
Yeah, I think I've actually been really impressed with their serving percentages, because it's not an important thing is getting a service ace is a super off. I think last year we unfortunately lost our senior who had the highest service ace percentage in the conference, which is when you have somebody like that come up, you're counting them in the rotation. You're please God, 2 more people and then she's serving again. And your defense is just please no, let's just end the game before she gets up. And I've been really impressed with the amount of service aces that we've actually been getting. But on top of that, I like that early into the season. And I mean, even if you take the season as just a scratch, because I think we're pretty far into it at this point. We played 12 matches. I think that taking the risk to go for service aces and making some service errors, I think that's an important risk that you got to take in a lot of games, because I would rather see you go for the home run than just the bunt. So I'm happy that they're doing that. But then the thing is, once they get down, they're unable to stop runs. I mean, in the UTEP series, UTEP in game 3, they had an 0 for 9 run, and then we broke that with like one good block, and then immediately followed that with an 0 for 5 run from UTEP. So it's just like, if we can't stop these runs and our defense is able to like get out of these like sticky situations, then there's like basically no point playing, because we're going to be down so far. I mean, just in those 2 runs, you're down 14 is off the bat. So a game that was even, and I think they were 4-4, and then UTEP went on an 0 for 9 run, and then it was like 6 to like 16, and then we just immediately got blown out with another 0 for 5 runs. So, in games like that, I think I would like to see a little bit more from the defense, but I mean, maybe they just got caught in a bad transition. Maybe their libero was somehow not on the court at the time. So I don't know. It's interesting to see, but I think that they can only win games that are close, which I like, but they can't. I haven't yet to see them blow out a team, which I've been waiting for, and I've seen them get blown out quite a bit. So maybe they'll blow a team out, which I'm excited.
I think that's a little bit of the risk that you kind of have to run when you have your front row players pulling back on serve receive and playing that strong defensive stance, because sometimes it's a little bit hard to get mobile back there, especially if you're trained to play front row. And I noticed in the games that I've watched, we're consistently moving at least 2 front row players back to pass. And that's, I mean, it's a toss up on how it's going to end up. I think that our defense maybe would benefit a little bit more having more DSs back there instead of pulling back our outside hitters. But at the same time, sometimes it can be effective, but you just never really know.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see maybe less hitters on the field, on the court, and just like do a lot. Maybe, I mean, our volleyball coach has been here for quite a while, and she has a very like solid win percentage. So I don't know if I would blame it on the rotations, but I mean, it seems as though we're getting into these situations and we're just unable to get out of them. So I would have to say that it's rotation oriented, or at least there's something that they're doing that just like they just have a very like they just don't know how to win as a team yet, which is the thing, and they don't know how to press the lead, which I think you'll learn. Like once you get one blowout victory, I think then you'll learn. You'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. But they set themselves up to have teams come back on them like basically every game, and it's just like you can't do that if you want to be like a contestant or you want to be like a contender in this league. Like you're gonna get destroyed in like a set against like an actual good team if you're losing against teams that are like letting you score on them. So I don't know. I'm hopeful, but I'm a little pessimistic here as well.
Kind of like you're saying, I think just give them time. It's what every young team, regardless of sport, has to get through. They have to learn how to win and how to close games out. I just think this team is just not quite there yet, but it's coming. They'll eventually get there. I mean, Coach Groff has been here for 19 seasons, I believe. Like you're saying, very solid win percentage. They'll figure it out. They'll get done. May not be in time to salvage this season based on where we're at, but I think, next season and going forward, we'll start to kind of come together as a team when we have a little more time to just kind of come together and really congeal into a single unit. All right, so we got to talk about another UTSA sports program that is off to a bit of a slow start. UTSA soccer is off to a 1-3-1 start on the year. They played to a scoreless draw against Houston last week, and then just this Sunday against Rice, they took a 2-3 loss. Ryan, I want to start with you. What's going on with this team right now? Where are they really struggling?
They're, it's kind of hard to say because they played some really tough opponents in the whole, field of women's soccer, like here in the nation. Rice is currently 4-0, and I think Houston had only one loss going into the game or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but they've been playing some very stout competition. The only thing that's stopping them from getting some more wins is they've just had some trouble actually scoring. They've done really they've done a good job, holding possession on the offensive side. But when it comes to actually trying to score and scoring goals, that's just where they're, not doing so well. But I will say that a lot of the reason why that the games don't get out of hand and they're still kind of close is Jill Schneider is playing like incredible. She's been such a crucial component in the team's success so far. I know they're only 1-3-1 right now, but she's been playing great throughout that stretch. Like she held U of H scoreless in that game. Rice is kind of hard to judge off of because it's Rice and they're the powerhouse for whatever reason at women's soccer. I don't understand why, but Jill Schneider's been a very, very big bright spot for the Roadrunners this season. As like they start to play competition, most of the conference right now is not doing so hot. There's like four, actually, like 4 or 5 other teams that have only won like one game in the conference. So I think once they start getting into those types of matches against, the teams that are starting to play, around that level, then we'll start to see probably some more, better results when it comes to the scoring and the way the games are going. But I wouldn't, count this team out yet. The season's still early and they've played some very stiff competition. They played Rice twice already and they've played U of H. So, as the season progresses and they start to play teams that are more down to their level and more, not as crazy with women's soccer, I think that the results will start to, look a lot better.
Julia, we'll go to you.
Yeah, I agree with everything. We were pretty evenly matched with Houston, which is very impressive and speaks a lot to how the program has built up in the past couple years under Coach Pittman. And scoring really is the only thing that we truly, truly struggle with. We're not really capitalizing on our corner kicks, and which is a major, major issue, I think. And our shots are just off target is the main problem. We're taking good shots position wise on the field, but we're just not making smart kicks, I guess. It's we're mainly struggling in that area, but I think like Ryan said, if we can turn that around and kind of find the goal, then we're going to have some significant success because our defense is amazing right now. And we have been in control of the ball for a majority of the season based on stats. So I think getting to the competition level where we're kind of even with will definitely show where we can improve and where we're able to perform the best. But scoring for sure is the main issue with us right now.
Yeah, really just illustrating that scoring issue between our first game of the season, actually, and then this last game. We went 313 in-game minutes without a goal before Abby Casal finally broke the drought in the 8th minute against Rice on Sunday. And really watching her play, I could kind of see that coming. She has been putting a lot of shots on net for us so far, so I knew it was only a matter of time before she broke through. Kind of like you both are saying, the scoring really is our only major issue. Defensively, we've been pretty good for the exception of the Rice games. Our possession has also been really good, but it really is just that lack of that killer instinct to have that clinical finish at the end. Because especially like watching the Houston game, we had a couple really good chances on net and we just couldn't find the back of it. Like it was just not meant to be on one of those days. So I think that this team is definitely better than the record probably indicates. I think our just lack of being able to finish at the net and just the quality of opponents are really the only thing really holding us back from really kind of showing it off. I think as we get further in the season, we're not just playing the soccer powerhouses that are Rice University. I think that it'll look much better on the record to kind of reflect what we're doing on the stat sheet. So I think that this team looks good despite the record maybe saying otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So moving on through some other quick hits, softball finally got back in action after having, I believe it was 5 or 6 games postponed due to various circumstances, but they finally got back in action at the Roadrunner Classic. Managed to notch 2 wins and 2 losses for it. So started off pretty strong with wins over Kansas and then a 9-1 mercy ruling of UT Arlington 5 innings, which is pretty impressive. And then they kind of dropped off over their last couple games against Kansas and Corpus Christi. But overall, pretty solid start for them. The tennis teams have been on a pretty good streak as of late. Women's tennis is currently on a 4-game winning streak, including wins over New Mexico State and Seward last week. And then the men's tennis team is winners of 3 of their last 4 games with wins over, I believe it is, let me just double check to make sure I get this right. Wins over UT Arlington, New Mexico State, and UTRGV over the past week. They did drop their last game out 2-5 against SMU, though, but still pretty respectable given where they started the season. They're definitely getting back on track there. And finally, as of the time of this recording, UTSA men's golf is currently in action at our home tournament at the Cabo Collegiate in an absolutely stacked field. And they're currently sitting 8th of 16 teams in the final day of action with not much hope of moving forward and not much hope of moving backwards. So they're probably going to finish about midfield there. So good work for them. Chad Sewell especially has been having a really good tournament, just like he did last week. So shout outs to him. So now we got to talk about some national news. And I want to start off with a Texas sports person / image. It's going to be a very Texas heavy sports person type of national segment here. So I don't know if you guys remember this guy's name. James Harden, the beard, Houston Rocket legend, is going to have his number retired despite the relatively messy divorce process that played out earlier this season. So Eddie, I want to start with you. Your immediate reaction to the Houston Rockets retiring the beard's number.
It's ridiculous. I think it's weird and dumb. I am not a huge fan of James Harden at all. I mean, I don't think he deserves it, especially with the way he went out. They did everything for him. They brought in Dwight Howard again when he was, at an all-star level. They brought him Chris Paul, and then he wanted Russell Westbrook, and then he had good players in Clint Capella that they got rid of too. And I just think he had a lot of, yes, he was going against one of the most stacked teams of all time, the Warriors, in those years of getting over the hump. But I mean, other than his performance too, he would always choke when it mattered most. So, I mean, I don't think he deserves it. I mean, all he did during his time in Houston was, create a new traveling shot. And then all he did was ball hog, ruin the team's chemistry, and he choked in all the playoff performances. So I personally don't think he deserves it. And especially with the way he went out, gaining 300 pounds and then going to the Brooklyn Nets. So that's what I got to say.
Don, we'll go to you.
That's a good take. I don't think that he deserves to have the jersey retired, at least right now. I mean, I maybe if he came to play like his final seasons at the Rockets, maybe I could see something like that being eligible for retirement. But like, I think that when he was at the Rockets, I mean, obviously like the stats are undeniable. Like he was scoring a lot, and I mean he was also using a lot of the ball. And I think that the system that he put around him kind of just became the James Harden system. And I think that if you play around him and you're able to get results, I mean, not saying that making it to like almost conference finals isn't results, or making playoffs every year isn't results. It's just when you're adding all this star power every single season and you're just unable to turn it into a championship or unable to turn it into Western Conference Finals. I mean, you just start thinking, you think towards the top of it. You don't think that, oh man, if only these bench players were just doing better. You start to think like, oh, maybe if Harden was putting better performances up, maybe we could turn something out of it. So I think that retiring his jersey is a little bit preemptive. Let's just see what he does with the rest of his career. But yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it. I would say I kind of feel the same way as if like the Spurs retired like Kawhi's number. I'd just be like, why? Like for what? Like you're just trying to hurt me at this point. So yeah, that's how I would feel about it if I was a Rockets fan.
Well, I mean, I think that's different because Kawhi did bring a ring for the
True.
city of San Antonio. He didn't. So, and then not only that, just the way he handled himself. I mean, Kawhi also handled it wrong, but it was very, like it wasn't disclosed or anything. Like it was very under, like low key, everything that was going on. There's rumors of him not being happy, but Harden made it like plain and simple out in sight. Like, hey, I don't like Houston. Like, get me the hell out of here. And he wasn't even nice about it. And he kept saying that every year that this team has enough to get to the championship. Like this team has enough to get a ring. And like I said, like everything that they added for him, he wanted. And then for the city of Houston to just do everything for him and then him just to bounce. Like I just think that's wrong. I mean, there has been players like John Stockton that have gotten their jersey retired. But I don't know, just the way he went out, that doesn't sit with me, especially the way he went out. Like, why would they do this favor for him if he didn't even, give the right treatment back to them?
All right, Ryan, I want to get your take on this because you are a huge James Harden guy. So what do you think,
really?
man?
Yeah, Harden is actually my favorite player. So I'm not trying to sound biased here. I do think it is way too early to have retired his jersey. I definitely think they probably should have waited until after, the dust had settled and like his career was already over. I feel like there's still some very open wounds for a lot of Houston sports fans when it comes to James Harden. And I think it's like way too early to have done it now. But I mean, hey, I guess that's just what they wanted to do. I mean, the season's, I guess, really bad, and they were like, hey, let's just do this just to do it, But anyways, I agree with some points. I do think that he handled the situation really badly, and he basically just trashed and tarnished like what type of legacy he did leave with the Rockets with the way he handled the trade request and his unhappiness with the team. But I mean, the guy also did, I know they didn't win a championship, but he did do a lot for, the Houston basketball in general. I mean, they were one Chris Paul hamstring away from making a finals appearance, and it's like stuff like that. I know it's like probably a weak basis on, retiring a jersey, but he was one of their MVPs and he did a lot for the city. Like whenever, the whole Hurricane Harvey stuff happened, and he helped out a lot with the city, even just recently too, with like the winter storm and a lot of people, being without power and without water and stuff. He was still helping out people, even though he's like not, technically affiliated with Houston anymore. It's just like little things like that is like, some of the reasoning beyond like wanting to retire his jersey. It's not just for what he did on the court, but it's like the stuff that he did outside of, the Toyota Center and what he did for the city as well. So I think that was like part of the basis on wanting to, retire his jersey number and not kind of like honor him that way. But I do see where y'all are coming from and can see how it's like a little bit ridiculous and how it could not be like, it could be seen as a joke. But I do think there is some little like substance to wanting to retire his jersey. But I do think it was still like really, really early. They should have definitely waited like a really, a few more years before they even consider it. So yeah, way too early though.
Yeah, just kind of echoing what you guys are all saying. Like, to me, jersey retirement numbers are like sacred. Like, you have to have done something truly special to your franchise to get your number retired. And I think James Harden probably ended up doing that for Houston in his time there. He didn't bring him a chip, but you could definitely say he was one of their best players they've ever had. I mean, I can think of Olajuwon, Ming, McGrady. I know I'm forgetting at least one other really impactful player on the Rockets, but like Harden's up there. Yeah, like
he was also number 2 on scoring in Rockets history, right behind Hakeem.
Yeah, so he didn't bring him a chip, but he did do a lot. But I totally agree with you guys. It's way too soon. Like, the body is still warm, for crying out loud. Like, you couldn't even wait till the end of the season. Like, you're gonna do it later this season. You're gonna retire. It's like, to me, that almost feels like a clingy ex-girlfriend that didn't want to say goodbye and is like still hitting your DMs up. Like, I think it's way too soon. It like just even the concept of retiring a number of a guy that's still playing just is awkward to me. Like, to me, your jersey retirement, that's like an end of career milestone sort of thing. Like, that's where you bring Kobe back for, 8 and 24 a couple of years after the Lakers, retirement. It's like, that's a special thing. And so I totally agree with you guys. It's way too soon for that.
I mean, it could end up, they could have done it like at the end of the season, and it could be like, Brooklyn plays the Rockets for like the first game of the season after winning a chip, and they get their ring ceremony and they get to retire his jersey at the same time. Just do a 2-for-1, right? Just like kill every Rockets fan at the same time. Why wait and like stagger it out? No, I mean, yeah, I think that I feel bad for all my Houston sports fans this year. This has been a rough year for you guys. So sorry about that one.
Now, really quickly, I want to get you guys' opinions. So obviously, we all called this back when the season first began that at the beginning of March, we'd have a primetime matchup between the number 1 seed Utah Jazz and the number 1 seed Philadelphia 76ers. So I wanted to ask you guys, is there a chance this is an NBA Finals preview at all?
Definitely
Eddie, we'll
not.
start with you.
Definitely not. I believe, like I was saying earlier, this is just because maybe matchup wise in the schedule, and then the Lakers are pretty banged up right now, and the Clippers are still trying to find the way. I mean, the Spurs are 5 right now, and nobody saw that coming. So that tells you a lot, and nobody saw the Suns being number 2 as well. So, I mean, if you would have told me that the Suns and the Spurs were going to be on top of not the Pelicans, the Mavericks and the Nuggets, like, I'd call you crazy. And then I think the 76ers are up there because the Nets, I mean, yes, they got James Harden, but KD is still out. They're obviously on paper set to make the finals appearance, but I think they're still finding it out. But they're tied, so they're really tied. They're both 23 wins. So the Bucks, I mean, the Bucks. I mean, is Giannis a problem or is he the solution? We don't know. So they're still trying to figure it out like always. And I think that's why the 76ers and the Jazz are on top, is because the teams that should be there are kind of struggling at the moment.
All right, so now we're going to move over to the NFL here. So Dak Prescott, contract saga continues. We talked about this last year, it felt like. We talked about it the year before. Well, we're on the 3rd year now of Dak Prescott contract talks, and the latest numbers are coming out that he wants Patrick Mahomes' money around $44 million. So, Eddie, I want to get your reaction first off to that.
That's dumb. I'm a huge I hate the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sorry. If anybody's a fan here, though. Especially their fans. So if anybody's a fan, I'm sorry. I cannot stand their fans. But Dak Prescott is insane if he thinks he wants Pat Mahomes' money. Yeah, $44 million. I think he should have just taken before the franchise tag. I believe they offered him 34, and I mean, he was 1-3 before he lost his ankle last year, and the year before he let Carson Wentz in the same division go to the playoffs, and with a negative record as well. So 2 years in a row. I mean, yes, he was injured, but before he got injured, he was 1-3, I believe, and the year before he finished with a negative record, didn't make the playoffs, let Carson Wentz make it. And you got Pat Mahomes going to back-to-back Super Bowls with the highest contract ever. So, like, I don't understand where he's at in the spectrum thinking he deserves Pat Mahomes' money. It's disrespectful to even think that he deserves that much. Or it's crazy to think that he deserves that much.
Don, we'll go to you.
I mean, I liked initially when he was offered, I think it was like 30-something million, and he decided he's going to do his franchise tag him and that he's going to bet on himself to make the 44. I mean, I respect that from a player. Like, I like to see that initiative and be like, yeah, I mean, you guys don't think I'm worth it. I'm just going to prove to you guys this season that I am. And then he didn't, and so he got injured. So, I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to look at that and be like, yeah, I would pay for that. I want that $44 million quarterback, because when I look at it, it just I don't know. I had this fun idea at Jerry World where like you have like the Dak Prescott like pay meter, right? And every time he throws a pick, like $1 million just gets shredded off of it. And so like I figured by like the end of the season he'd be worth like a $22-24 million, which was about where he threw. So I mean, I don't think that he's worth 44 million. I do like that he's betting on himself. So maybe next season he shows us why he's worth the money. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's going to get paid it. So I mean, they're not going to replace him with Andy Dalton. So I mean, I don't know how he strong armed the Cowboys into it, but he's done a good job at it. So
I mean, the Andy Dalton, I know you're probably not saying good about him, but 8-8 season.
yeah, I mean, honestly, he's not bad. He's not bad, but I don't think that they're gonna franchise him.
Oh no, of course not.
Yeah.
It'd be cheaper. But if Dak Prescott wants to keep betting on himself, he'll be playing for the Jets next season. I don't. He definitely did. Okay, well, I'm gonna ask you this: did you think he deserved Pat Mahomes' money before injury?
Wasn't he like he had like I would say he was like didn't they have him like all his numbers like made him the 5th quarterback in the league, and then like but the problem was that when you separated like the 1st and the 5th, it was like there was some like crazy like it was like over like 400 like yards and then like some like crazy pick ratio. It was just like I don't know. It's hard for me to look at that and be like, yeah, I think he deserves the same amount as this guy. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't think he deserves it because I also think Patrick Mahomes will eventually become the greatest football player of all time. So I think that paying him the same amount as a guy who can't make the playoffs yet is pretty hard for me to be like, yeah, this is a good idea.
Yeah, and they offered him 3 contracts before the season started. I mean, I know they offered him 32, 34, and then 38, and he denied all of them. So, I mean, I don't understand what he wants. Like, it's not going to get Pat Mahomes money. I think he needs to understand that he's not Pat Mahomes.
And I think it's fair to say that nobody is Patrick Mahomes. Like when Patrick Mahomes signed that contract, to me, that was almost like establishing the ceiling for quarterbacks. Like, you are not better than Patrick Mahomes, ergo, you should not be getting paid as much as Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, that's not how a market works, but you would think that maybe owners would think that. Well, the Cowboys are trying to think that. I think that he's by no means worth $44 million a year. He's probably not worth Deshaun Watson money either. He probably sits somewhere between that 139 to 128 million range that Goff and Wentz got, which, in hindsight is probably scaring the Cowboys a little because as soon as they paid Goff and Wentz, man, they did not turn out very well and they're on new teams now. So I think it is going to be very interesting. Now, I wanted to get your snap judgment. Give me a number value. What would you pay Dak? Like right now, each and every one of you. Julie, I want to start with you.
No, go for it.
Oh, as the silent sufferer token Cowboys fan of the Paisano, I don't know. He is not worth Patrick Mahomes' money. He needs to take us to the Super Bowl before we consider that. I mean, honestly, other than the Cowboys, the NFL isn't my strong suit of knowledge, but I would put Dak run of the mill probably payment for quarterbacks. He hasn't 32. Okay. So he hasn't significantly impressed me to the point where I think that he should be paid above average for his play. So I'd say probably average 32 would probably be acceptable, but him asking money to have the same monetary contract as Patrick Mahomes is ridiculous, and he needs to sit down. I mean, he's my quarterback, but he needs to sit down.
Eddie?
Yeah, I agree. Like I was thinking 25, 30, like million a year. Only because like if you look at the division, like he's putting up good numbers half of the season with his division, which is not a very good division. And then most of the games that he puts up big numbers are in garbage time. And a lot of people aren't really like seeing that. And then just the audacity that he has to let Carson Wentz go to the playoffs in 2018 when he could have done something about that. And then now to get injured, the audacity he has thinking he has leverage, still asking for $44 million after even though he got injured, it's part of the game. It's still a negative effect on his season. So he let Carson Wentz go to the playoffs, and then he got injured, and he still thinks he has leverage, asking for $44 million a year. I don't think he's even close to that. I think 25, 30. I know the cap did go up, so probably 30, 35, but that's my 25, 30, I think.
Dalton, you sticking with 32, or are you going higher or lower?
I mean, I was highballing a little bit for Julia because she's a Cowboys fan. I would say probably like 28 around there. I think that I would say that 32 is probably what I think. Like if you look at like market, I would say that's probably what he should get paid. Like if you take into all the accounts, like yes, he did have some garbage time. That's where he got like a lot of his percentages from. And to be fair, every game that they played, that was like, an opponent that they could have beaten and they lost. I think that's another ding on his record. And when you look at what he was working with, and then you're the Cowboys franchise quarterback. There's a lot of factors there. But I mean, I think around like 28, 32, like within that range. I think that's a good I think you should stick stick to what you know. Stay in your box. Don't go trying to make it in because you're not in that upper echelon yet. You're still like a middle of the road quarterback. I'd say you're like 13th. Get paid 13th money.
And I know Jerry has the money, but like they just maxed. They max like Ezekiel, and they gave Amari like a crazy super deal too.
Yeah,
I have to part ways with Zeke, honestly.
Yeah, honestly.
It may be time to ditch Zeke.
Tony Pollard has proved that he can take the workload when Zeke hasn't shown up. So
yeah, and Zeke got the money, and he just he got
fell
fat
off
and
the
just went
cliff.
to Cabo. Yeah,
don't
fell
pay
off the
running
cliff.
backs. You don't pay
exactly.
running backs, bro.
He's a fullback now.
You never pay a running back. I don't know what you do. What's wrong with you?
Ryan, what about you? Where are you putting Dak's contract at? What would you pay him?
So I was looking around because I wanted to like see what like the actual cap range is for most quarterbacks like around his tier, and it seems like what Dalton's saying, like 28 or 27 range is probably right around where he would be. He would be around like the Jacoby Brissett, Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill range, and I feel like that's honestly a good spot for him to be in because, I mean, Garoppolo played in a Super Bowl and,
Defense carried him.
Defense carried him. Yeah, exactly. So, like, I mean, Dak's had a way better offense and, still didn't get nothing done. So, I mean, I think 27, 28 is a good asking range for him to, look for.
Yeah, it's a good range, especially because.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna touch up real quick on what Ryan said. That's true. I think it is. He is right there with Jimmy Garoppolo and from Tennessee. What's his name again?
Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah. Tannehill got carried by Derrick Henry, and Jimmy Garoppolo got carried all the way to the Super Bowl by the defense. So who's carrying Dak Prescott? That's what I want to know.
Exactly.
To make that money.
Yeah, I admit I was gonna put it at around like 34 million is what I would have paid him, but you guys have convinced me. You guys have made a lot of good points. I think I could take that down. I think that around that 28 to 32 range is probably where he should be sitting, because it is a lot of garbage time, and he did get hurt. Like Dak should have probably been paid last year, and he started off the season pretty well, but then he got hurt. And no matter how fluky of an injury it is, it's still an injury, and it's still a significant injury. Like that has, as unfair as it is, that does hurt your value. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's part of the game.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to finish up this week's episode with our last topic, getting back to Houston sports legends that have sadly flown the coop and gone to, some would say, greener pastures. J.J. Watt, despite me and Eddie's speculation all last week's episode, he did not go anywhere we thought he was going to go, as he is now an Arizona Cardinal, team up with his boy D-Hop in Arizona with Kyler Murray. So, Ryan, I wanted to get your immediate reaction to J.J. Watt going to the NFC West.
I am honestly really I'm not entirely confused, but I'm wondering if JJ knows something that we don't. So I was looking up a lot of like the cap situation, because I was like, well, how does like his cap factor into their plans this season? And it looks like 4 out of their 6 sack leaders from last season are free agents. So the Cardinals needed J.J. Watt to sign
Is
with
Chandler
them.
Jones staying?
Excuse me?
Is Chandler Jones staying?
Chandler Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still under contract, so
Okay.
he's good. But they're right now, Marcus Golden and Hassan Reddick are slated to hit the market, and they're unrestricted. So those are, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Reddick led the team in sacks, and I just lost my thought. But
think-
anyways, what were you gonna say?
The Chandler Jones was hurt last year, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Did he? Yeah.
And he's their
He got
best
hurt.
pass rusher. He's big time. He's top 5, like for sure when he's healthy, along with J.J. Watt. So I think they might let those go if they can't sign them.
Yeah. So that was like the thing where I was like, okay, well now it makes sense. Like, Arizona really needed a pass rusher because it seems like they're about to part ways with a few of their current pass rushers that have led the team. So I just thought that was interesting. I know the offense is unquestionably going to be good. I mean, they were pretty good last season, and I'm sure that they're only going to get up from here as Kyler Murray continues to develop into the quarterback that Kingsbury wants them to be. I'm just really concerned with how the defense is going to hold up, because even with that, they're losing Dre Kirkpatrick. I know that's not a big
Good corner.
loss for them.
Decent corner.
Yeah. But Patrick Peterson is also slated to hit the market too.
Washed.
So right now, all they really got is Budda Baker, and I don't even know who else really, but it just seems like, looks like JJ might be trying to build a super team out in the desert, and maybe that was the first domino to fall for that defense. Maybe he's going to be like trying to attract people to the defense.
Richard Sherman.
It could be an effect like that. So that's going to be something to watch for, to see like what type of free agents flock to Phoenix this offseason. But it was a very, very interesting move. I know I did not see it. I thought he was going to go to Green Bay or Buffalo. I didn't think he was going to go anywhere else.
Yeah,
but
Samir Ryder said.
Yeah, I was complete curveball from JJ.
Dylan, we'll go to you.
I mean, I felt like JJ was gonna get cut, honestly. From like, I don't know. At least that's what, like, I don't know. That's what I was looking at last year. Because I mean, the man's like half a cyborg at this point. So I'm not sure like how many more seasons he's gonna be really putting up. But I mean, he's still a solid pass rush. So I don't know if I would. I don't know if I'm the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know if that's the path I want to go, because I'm pretty sure you're looking to try to build like a team that's going to be growing over the next couple of years. And I mean, I don't think trying to just like put it all together this year is like your really good plan. So I mean, maybe getting a couple of playoff experiences before you try to make your big run. But like, I mean, I know Kenyon Drake is going on the market next year. So, I mean, like, that's obviously a huge part of your offense. And I think if you're putting money into players now, I'm not sure if you want to start off with J.J. Watt. So I don't know about this move, both on, like, the Cardinals' perspective. I think this is a good move for J.J. And I think, like, getting out of the Houston area, because, like, the Cardinals are a team that you can look at and be like, if we win, like, we can, like, go big. Like, there's something special about this team. Whereas when you look at Houston, there was something special about this team, and then they cut him and he went to the Arizona Cardinals. So I would say that, I think that this is a good move for JJ. I think it's a little questionable for the Cardinals. So I'm curious to see how it actually pays out. But yeah, I don't know if I would have done it. So yeah.
Eddie, we'll go to you.
Just to bounce off of what they're saying. I don't know. I don't agree that the Cardinals was a good move, because you got a stacked division if everybody stays. If Russell Wilson stays, the 49ers get healthy, and now the Rams have Matthew Stafford along with their like beast of a defense. So I don't know what he was thinking of. I know I did hear some reports that Cleveland and Indianapolis offered him more money. I believe they offered him 2 years, $40 million. And I don't know why he denied that. I feel like the Colts would have been a very good place to go, especially with them getting Carson Wentz now. The defense is already good. He can add on with Darius Leonard. Yeah, but I don't see the Cardinals like being a. I mean, yeah, like Ryan was saying, they're losing a lot of like key pieces or good pieces on their defense. He is going to come and he is going to help Chandler Jones. But other than that, what is this team like really like? Where do they stand as far as the Seahawks, 49ers, Rams, and Cardinals? Like I would put them last right now because I believe the 49ers healthy. They're literally like just a couple plays away from getting a Super Bowl. I think the Rams are going to be really good this year. And then the Seahawks, you got Russell Wilson. That whole drama going on, we don't know. But if he stays, they're a playoff team. With Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Russell Wilson together. Their defense needs help, but I'm pretty sure they'll upgrade a little bit here. But I don't know what his plan was coming to this stacked division.
Yeah, I think at least from the Cardinals' perspective, it's a really good move for them because you bring in J.J. Watt, and you're in a division that's now stacked with quarterbacks. Like Garoppolo, when he's healthy and operating that system, is a decent starting quarterback. I think Stafford and McVay's system is going to be deadly, and then Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson. Like you need guys that can get in there, pressure those guys, make them have to make plays instead of just getting a clean pocket. So I think bringing in J.J. Watt is great from the Cardinals' perspective. At this point in JJ, looking at the contract, he got paid still. Like it's not max money, but it's still a pretty hefty contract. I mean, it's about $15.5 million per year, I think, is the number in my head.
Especially,
he got paid
at the point of his career. Like, I mean, 31 million is not bad. Like Dalton was saying, he is a cyborg. He's been injured every year, like for the past 4 or 5 years. Hasn't really played full seasons. So 31 million isn't bad, but he did decline 45 from Cleveland and Indianapolis. So that's kind of strange.
Yeah, so it's an interesting move. The contract and the size of it indicates to me that a lot of teams still think he can go, but that also that like money was still at least a priority to him. It wasn't just chasing a ring, in which case going to, someplace else like a Buffalo is probably the better choice. So going to Arizona tells me that he's still in the mindset of I can play more than 2 years. I still have time to go chase the ring at the end of my career. I think he did face a lot of double teams. I think that is important. He is still a good player, and he was facing a lot of double teams in Houston that he won't necessarily have to deal with as much with a Chandler Jones out there being able to eat some of that edge pressure up. So I think that JJ to the Cardinals is a interesting move. It's not a move I think any of us expected. I don't even think the Cardinals probably expected it when they first started in on it. But I think it's an interesting move. And again, it just makes the NFC West one of the most interesting divisions in football. Like that division next year is going to be so interesting to keep track of.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, like I think maybe he just, he had tunnel vision and just saw Chandler Jones. Because I know Chandler Jones over the past 3 years was a sack leader. He had 19 last year in 2019, and then in 2017 he had 17, and then 13 in between those 2 years. So I think maybe he saw him and Chandler Jones could be nasty, and then with a couple pieces in defense, with that good offense with Kyler and Hopkins now. I'm not too big on their running back play, but if Drake could get it going, and I mean that'd be pretty decent.
It doesn't really click with me though, because I don't know. I guess for me it's like you look at like what players like. Okay, by the way, this comparison is not what I'm trying to make it out to be. You look at players like LeBron James, right? Like he's going to the I know. I'm playing. Yeah. But like he goes to the Lakers and then because he sees talent, right? He sees young talent, and then he's gonna bring in bigger. He brings an AD, and he basically. I mean, he resets the entire roster, but he brings in other superstars, and like he's going to a team that's like one player or one person away from being that next contender, the next winner. And I just look at Arizona, and I mean, you go to probably the most stacked conference in all of football, and then on top of that, like I just don't know if I see if I was last year when I was like looking at Arizona, I'm like, man, they're just one pass rush away from just being the best team in the league. Like that wasn't what I was thinking. So I don't know if this was the best move if he wants to get a chip, but I mean, if he thinks that he can keep playing, I mean, sure, enjoy like a couple of seasons here because I think that you can do a lot for, depending on what they're going to do with the defensive line. how many players they're going to keep. He can do a lot to really like bring up the youth.
Mhm.
So I'm curious to see what he does, but yeah, I'm not sure how much I like the trade.
Well, if you didn't think they were a pass rusher away, now they have two.
Oh yeah,
Because Chandler Jones didn't play last year.
yeah.
So who's to say him and Chandler are going to be a huge problem? I think
Yeah.
they will. I think JJ. I mean, yeah, injuries have declined his career, but I think he'll leave it all out these 2 years and just retire.
I mean, I also think that again, like Ryder said, I think that this division is like insanely important to have somebody who can get on the quarterbacks because
Yeah.
As a Seahawks fan, like I know what it must. I can't imagine what it must be like to have like the cue the cartoon music as four people are all chasing one guy who just bombs it to DK for 45. So like I know what that's like from like my perspective. So I'm assuming that it's pretty rough for other teams. So
It's
people who are
infuriating.
walking down. Yeah, I mean, it must be pretty rough. But yeah, I can imagine. So hopefully, two pass rushers is what they need to lock down these quarterbacks. So we'll definitely see in these next couple months.
Yeah.
All right, that is going to do us for our topics this week. Does anybody have any final thoughts or shout outs they would like to put out there?
I'm good.
All
right.
Spring football is back at the end of the month. Just want to point that out.
That is true.
So that's
Nice.
going to be exciting. Trailers for spring football.
Shout outs once again to the 12 seniors coming back for an extra year of eligibility. We're happy to have all you guys.
True.
So that'll do us here. Thank you all so much for listening and watching, and we'll make sure to catch you next week. You have a good one.